Welcome to another episode of RIA Collective. I'm your host, as always, Charlie Van Derven. I open the show like this a lot, but it's so true, right? Financial services is low on the trust totem pole as far as Americans are concerned. If I haven't said it before, I'm sure I have. Right behind elected officials, car salespeople, advertisers, and then this Gallup poll actually called financial advisors stockbrokers. So all the stuff the industry is trying to change isn't catching on. So like the premise of the show is to showcase people who have made a transition from a more captive environment into an independent environment. I think that's where the client service is most pure. There's not the bias of the commissions and the products and the quotas and all that other stuff. Today I've got a, dare I say it, energetic host, Jen, or an energetic guest, Jen Staben. This is going to be a really fun conversation. Jen's got a great history in the industry and then landed with Prime Capital. Jen, where are you in California? Remind me.
My practice is in Sacramento, Northern
Okay, cool.
California.
In Sacramento. So just down the road from where I lived for a while in South Tahoe. One of the things I'm really excited to talk about is actually Jen's brand. So I introduced her with Prime Capital, but she is so much unapologetically Jen. I think we'll probably spend a lot of time talking about that. So without further ado, Jen Staben, it is wonderful to have you. Thanks for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me, Charlie. I'm so excited.
Very cool. We met on LinkedIn, and even your LinkedIn photo is unapologetically Jen. You go against the grain of the blue suits, your term, not mine, though I'll use it. I'm happy to use it
You're
and
more than
defend
welcome
it.
to.
But you go so much against the grain of the blue suits that is financial services, right? If we think of a financial advisor, we can all draw a picture. And I'm thinking probably no one's picture is you.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's very good. Very good. Let's start off, Jen, with your story. Like what you're how long you been with Prime Capital?
I transitioned to Prime in February 2024.
Okay.
So about a
So
year and a half.
year and a half. That's awesome. Back us up maybe the 5 or 10 years leading up to that. And yeah, let's go through that story and bring us up to the change.
All right. Before that, I'm actually going the opposite way that I usually go. Before that, I was with Edelman Financial Engines for about 5.5 years. Before that, I was an actual stockbroker at TD Ameritrade. And before that, I was a private client banker / small business specialist at JP Morgan Chase. So that's been my financial services journey. And before that, I was a stay-at-home mom for 14 years.
That's an interesting. Okay, so now we're gonna go back through that. You did in reverse. I'm gonna bring it back up to present. 14 years stay-at-home mom. Why'd you choose financial services? Or did financial services choose you?
I'm so glad you said it that way, because I say something in the universe has pushed me into the financial services industry. I was going to school to teach. I thought I wanted to teach middle school English, which everybody in my field experience classes looked at me like I was a crazy person. But I wanted to teach kids how to write, and then ended up being one semester away from getting into the credentialing program, and found myself getting divorced in 2010 when people with master's degrees couldn't find jobs, when the community colleges were closed, or the four-year universities were closing their doors to new students. And so I had to get a job and found the first position in financial services off of Craigslist before Craigslist was shady, and found myself working part-time for an independent RIA that had been in business for 35 years. And that was my little toe dip into the industry, if you will. So that turned into me taking my measly divorce settlement check into my bank, which was Chase. And the banker tried to get me to talk to the financial advisor. And I said, I work for one. I know what I want to do with this money. And she said, who do you work for? What do you do? And we ended up getting into a conversation. And I ended up getting a job at the bank. So that turned into me getting licensed. My first licenses and my 6 and 63 life insurance. I became a notary at that point. And then I went back to school, got my degree in business management, and became a small business specialist. And
Awesome.
so I was the business banker, and then I was approached and asked if I wanted to be a private client banker, which is high net worth. And right when JP Morgan was rolling that out at regular quote unquote branches. And that turned into me getting more into advising, so to speak. That led to me being recruited by TD Ameritrade and going there and getting my 7 in 66. Then I was recruited by Financial Engines 1 month before they merged with Edelman Financial Services.
Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy. I had no idea what I had gotten myself into. And I just kept saying, I was a stay-at-home mom a few years ago. What am I doing?
Yeah, that's quick evolution, and what an education you got very quickly.
On the job.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing that I always say to people is that my first ex-husband, because there's two, please don't judge me, he used to say, hey, you should read these Bob Brinker newsletters that I get in the mail. You should invest my old 401k. And I waved it off. I could never do that. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then found myself at Edelman. And again, the timing of when I came on, since it was 1 month before they merged Financial Engines and Edelman, they chose 6 planners from Financial Engines, 6 from Edelman Financial Services. I was one of the ones from Financial Engines, paired us together, put us in a room in Arizona for a week and said, you guys have to come up with a unified way of talking to clients. Take the best from both worlds and put it together. So to me, that was an opportunity I used to say, I want my name in lights. I raised my hand for everything they asked. And cool. I think it's paid off.
Oh, it clearly has. It clearly has. And so you were there for about 5 years, and then the change to Prime. Why the change? Without disparaging anybody along the way.
Well, that's legal. That's illegal. We won't be doing that.
We don't need to do that.
We won't solicit, and we won't say anything disparaging.
There we go.
Why the move? Lots of reasons. Number one, the shift in the culture, which again, we won't disparage. That was big for me. I have an amazing partner, assistant, admin, whatever you want to call her. I call her my right arm and sometimes my left. We actually worked together at Edelman and then decided that we could do better. Cool. We could really dig into our clients' lives financially and otherwise, let's face it, because everything has to do with finance, and do things our way. That was really what it was. Instead of working for a company, whether it's Edelman or someone else,
right?
We are at the mercy of what they want us to do with the clients. Yeah. How are you going to work with these clients? We're going to use the tools that they've purchased or built. We're going to go through the sometimes scripts that other people have put together that don't sound anything like me. And my clients know that. So it became more and more apparent that it was time to make a change for us because we outgrew, if you will. We outgrew working for somebody else. And then the clients, the things that we can do now that we couldn't do when we were under a different type of business model, let's call it. Yep. That says everything. The things that we're able to do now are truly a reflection of who we are and how we work with our clients.
So I love it because I talk a lot about the purity of the client advisor relationship, but it has as much to do with you as it does with that relationship.
Oh, 100%. We could even get down to mood, the mood that, if the advisor's in a bad mood and you go into a meeting, you're not only your client's going to pick up on it, but your assistant, your admin, your colleagues.
Sure.
So if Jen's not happy, no one's happy.
Yeah, I imagine that. But in my limited experience, Jen, I haven't seen the unhappy Jen yet, so that's good.
Doesn't happen very often.
We took a conversation about flexibility. This brand, Unapologetically Jen. Yeah, it's awesome, right? It really did. It was a magnet to the LinkedIn profile. Right, black dress and boots, I think. Not that I'm looking at it, but just a contrast to what people think the industry is when they envision it. Was part of that decision to go with Prime, was that just the flexibility and creating I don't want to say persona because it sounds like it's contrived. It's not, it clearly isn't, but creating this brand around yourself.
Brand. Yeah, that was one of the deciding factors. There were several. Obviously, it was a big decision, and I did talk to many different firms. And I think I mentioned to you when we were talking before that I didn't want to find myself or my clients with a firm that I had either already worked for at one point
Sure.
or somewhere I didn't feel comfortable working. So number one was to find a place that was the least disruptive during the transition to my clients, because I made the decision, they didn't. And I think that's a huge thing when advisors transition is it is our life and livelihood, but think about the clients and what they have to go through. When we move, we make that decision if you want them to come with you. But yeah, Prime, the way that they presented was you can be Jen powered by Prime. And that's what my logo is, Unapologetically Jen, powered by Prime Capital. I still have the name because we're in the top 25 for Barron's. I don't know if you saw that. I've got the support. I've got someone else doing my compliance and my billing and all of the things that I don't want to do and Trish doesn't want to do, my partner. So I could be Jen. I could have my own brand. I can have my own newsletter. I'm starting the podcast. I'm writing a book. We're creating things for clients. I can make my own worksheets. It's with my brand on it. So it really does become, instead of Jen being the face of, what people think of, this is what I always have said is when I worked for JP Morgan and people thought of their banker at Chase, that was me. It wasn't Jamie Dimon. It wasn't people behind the scenes. And now I get to do it for me. I get to do things in my way, which is, let's be honest, what the clients were attracted to when they signed up, right? Yes, the name of the firm, and everybody needs to have something that gives them credibility, right?
Yeah.
And so having the name behind me, and it's a very well-respected name. Also, and I don't know if you know this, but Prime Capital is one of the only firms that I have found that is 70% advisor owned.
Ooh, I was not aware of that.
So I am a partner.
All right.
Decisions cannot be made without asking the advisors, the people with the boots on the ground. That to me is what clients, when I tell my clients that, when I told them I'm a partner, they went, "Oh, good for you." And I said, "No, that's not what we're talking about. It's not, oh, yay, Jen's a partner."
Yeah.
It's, I get to affect the decisions the firm is making. And how many firms do that?
I only know it, Jen, on a much smaller scale. I know some aggregates that are all the advisors have equity in the business, and certainly they have a seat at the table. On a larger scale, I can't say that I know it.
So it was very attractive. There were also a lot of things in place. So for instance, we can only be owned by private equity by no more than 10%.
That's cool.
That's in our bylaws, which,
Yeah.
let's face it, that's been somewhat of, I think, the downfall of some of the other bigger names is when private equity gets involved, you don't get to make any decisions. And in fact, leadership doesn't get to make any decisions.
And your future in that case is often writing's already on the wall where their private equity buys it so they can turn it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So who knows what that mystery holds? It's
Right.
going to be a mystery. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which again takes me back to, I didn't want to find myself working for a company I had already worked for. I think of Schwab and TD Ameritrade. When I worked at TD Ameritrade, there were people that left, or I'm sorry, actually, we'll take it one step further. I was at TD Ameritrade when they bought Scottrade. So there were people that got fired from TD Ameritrade and got hired at Scottrade that then found themselves working for TD Ameritrade again.
Ameritrade. Wow. Yeah.
And now it's Schwab and TD Ameritrade.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunately a very incestuous industry.
It
But
is.
because of that, I feel like there are messages that clients and other advisors need to hear. And I think that's probably why you're doing what you're doing. That's why I want to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I want to somewhat pull back the curtain on the financial services industry for clients to let them know there are people out there like me and Trish,
Yes.
like people that really do care and want to help you. and want to make your life easier and give you peace of mind, not just somebody that's saying, hey, how much money do you have and let me manage it.
Yeah, it's all about the assets. No, I'm encouraged by, it's probably a 10-year migration now. I'm encouraged by this migration towards even independent broker dealer, but furthermore, that step to RIA. Let's talk about branding. Like I really,
My favorite.
I'm excited. And I love brand strategy and marketing strategy. That's my favorite thing of what I do. Where did Unapologetically Jen come from? Do I even need to ask?
It's a good question because really there are a couple different layers there.
Okay.
The first one is it's a reminder to me to stop apologizing.
Great.
I apologize a lot. And I think a lot of people, and especially women, we do. And so it's a reminder that I know what I'm talking about. I don't need to apologize for telling somebody, hey, you got to quit spending money if you want to retire. Sorry. No, not sorry. You want to work with me? We're going to get your cash flow dialed. So that's part of it. The other part is, just as I was saying, is I've learned a lot in this industry, and I've grown up, if you will, in the industry in a non-traditional way. I didn't go to school for finance. I didn't say, hey, I want to be an advisor. In fact, I said, no way, no how. I don't want to tell people what to do with their money because when the market crashes, they're going to come running to me. So it's a reminder, and I'm gonna say it, and I want you as my client to feel it and not care what anybody else says. Live your life unapologetically, take the information. And I think right now is a great time to talk about this, right? Let's take the information that we know we're right. We know we're giving you good information. We see the writing on the wall. So it's unapologetically saying, just do it. Do it, say it, live it. You don't get another chance.
I love it. Very cool. Yeah, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there today. I don't know if
you're on
Instagram or TikTok, and who knows what's true and what's not. Yep. So I like the focus on what we know. So the podcast is coming. We've talked about that a couple of times. Tell me about what you'll be rolling out for the podcast and then when we can expect it.
Yeah, to me, the whole name of the game, is it good for me or is it good for the person trying to tell me to do it? I take the fiduciary aspect so seriously that I'm writing a book called Fiduciary with the word douche in the middle, which I know is risque, but hello, unapologetic. But that's the gist, is how I want to have people on. I'm going to have people on, like, for instance, my brother is in solar energy. I have connected him with multiple clients as a consultant while they're looking at putting solar on their house, which is very popular out here in California, right? But there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of upsells. There's a lot of what's good for me and what's the nitty gritty. What do I need to look for? How can I tell that this person is really telling me what's in my best interest? And how can I arm myself if they're not? Right? Yeah. That's another aspect. I want to talk about scams because they're rampant. And I think we need to be a little louder and a little more unapologetically about how to avoid being scammed, especially as advisors. I'm going to have a guest. My first guest is actually somebody I mentioned to you that I hope you connected with, because he is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave that out there.
No spoilers. Yeah.
No spoilers. A lot of people know him too. A lot of people in the industry know of him because then again, fiduciary. It's people that carry the fiduciary, or people that live the fiduciary life in their role in what they do for a living. Those are the guests that are going to be on there. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun because, it's going to be fun.
I would love to be a guest if we can figure out how to wiggle me in there somewhere. Yes. Yeah, let me know. We'll see if we can find a path for me on Unapologetically Jen.
100%. Probably we're thinking it really in my mind. As you can see, I'm just getting background and things ready to go. I'd like to have it out before the end of the year, but more than likely it'll be January.
Cool. I'm going to make everybody jealous right now and let them know that as soon as we stop this recording, I get to hear the intro and outro. Yeah.
Which I've been told sounds like what it would sound like if someone was inside my head.
Okay. My interest is even further piqued. Jen,
Yes.
before we wrap here, I got a couple questions for you that I like to ask everybody because in large part what we're trying to do is bring some advice and some experience and confidence to maybe an advisor that feels out of place at their current position, current
Mhm.
firm. Let's start with what's something that you've done really well through your transition, and then I'm going to ask you the flip side, so you can think about that a little bit. What something you might change, but let's start with something you've done really well through the transition.
I think as we talked about a minute ago, I think making it as seamless as possible for the clients.
Cool.
I think that, and which was my goal, right?
Yeah.
Is we even moved, our old address was 2901, our new address is 3017
Oh
on the
wow.
same street.
Oh.
Everything stayed at the same custodian. Account numbers stayed the same. Usernames and passwords stayed, that everything stayed the same. So the clients were what changed, right? Basically to them, it was a different phone number and a different email address.
Cool. Easy
Yeah,
enough. And did you retain everybody you wanted to?
for the most part.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Happy to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. So the flip side of that, Jen, did you do something that you look back and you go, oh, maybe we could have done that a little differently?
That's a good question. I didn't even think about that. I'm sure there are things that we could have done differently and could have done better. I'm happy with the way that the message that clients received. I'm happy with the support I received. I think in choosing, sorry about that, choosing Prime, maybe, I hate to say this, but maybe ahead of time, being a little more vigilant about getting to know the clients. I didn't know them as well
Sure.
before I moved.
Yeah.
So I think for people that are looking at moving, having real conversations or looking at transitioning, having the real conversations with their clients, not saying that they're going to move, not saying
Sure.
that if I leave, are you going to follow me? Obviously, you can't say things like that, but solidifying the relationships with the clients before you leave, which that's something we should all be doing anyway.
I think it's a 12-month cycle. I think you've got to be 12 months in front of it. And I agree with you. The most important part is, if not prior, those 12 months are dedicated to making sure that you create a tighter relationship with your clients. A lot of times, for the right people, not everybody, that means a social relationship to some degree.
Exactly.
Get outside the review meetings, get to know them a little bit. Cup of coffee is always a little more casual. Yeah.
Connect on social media, connect on LinkedIn.
There you go.
One of the things that I did say before I left, before I transitioned, was anybody can manage your money. The market is the market.
Yeah.
It's the relationship.
Yeah.
And I stand by that because at this point with my clients, I spend sometimes never, but such a small amount of time talking about the market, talking about performance, talking about investments. It's everything else. And don't get me wrong, that's what they're hiring us to do. And there's a certain kind of client that only wants to talk about that. But I think to piggyback on what I said about solidifying the relationship, I think it's also deciding or figuring out what kind of client is what you really want. Because in not working for someone else, you have the luxury of having the practice that you want. And I have a theory that your practice, your book of business, is a direct reflection of who you, and maybe your admin, if you have one as amazing as I do, who's more like a partner, they're a direct reflection of us. There's a certain kind of client that we appeal to. And thank goodness, because those are the clients we want. I'm not a super analytical crunching numbers behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Can I do it? Yeah. But I'd rather sit and talk to you about where'd you go on vacation and how often do you want to go? And let's work that into your plan for the next 20 years.
Yeah. It creates an opportunity. You build a book of business for a long time and you've got clients that you love working with. And most advisors have clients that cringe a little or they cringe a little bit when the phone rings and it's them. You see them on the caller ID. I take those people with you. Unless you absolutely need the income, it's not best for you and it's not best for the client.
Not at all. And it was something that took me a minute to realize, because when you're looking to transition, and especially if you're talking to other RIAs or talking to firms that want to bring you on, you have to spitball how much you think you're going to be able to bring. And it's a weird thing to think about for so many different reasons, right? I don't think of my clients as how much aid they have. I really don't. I have some clients that my biggest clients are the ones I talk to the least because they don't want to, right? So some of the smaller clients I'm talking to very often, but my point is that the maintenance that's required for some of the clients, regardless of how much they have, there was a point, I'm not going to lie, Charlie, there was a point where Trish and I sat down, we have a monthly meeting. We call it RISE. It stands for re-energizing and invigorating our superpower energy. And basically she creates an agenda. It's usually a couple pages. There's things that Jen's supposed to be doing and there's things that she's doing. And then, what's coming up, et cetera, et cetera. And at the top of that, for the first 6 months, maybe a year, was a list of some clients that I had planned on reaching back out to. And some of them were pretty big. So hello, an increase in income for us and makes us look awesome to the firm to bring more than what we said. And I finally just said to her, Trish, these clients make me anxious. I look at this list of clients, I don't really want to call them. And I said, so what if we just don't? What if maybe we'll send them a newsletter, maybe we'll send them the podcast link, but I don't want to work the days of feeling like I had to close business because someone else paid for the lead are over.
Yeah, that's great.
Right?
Yeah.
It's luxury. It's the luxury. I feel like we've arrived, right? I've got the practice that I've always wanted. It's continuing to grow by referrals, which is another thing that comes out of really knowing your clients is they're going to send everybody to you the second someone mentions they need help. It's working. It's beautiful. And I get to be Jen and I get to spread the word that, the market is the market. Find somebody you like.
Yeah. Sounds like Liberation Day.
Oh, yeah.
Jen, if we have any listeners who resonate with you, do you mind being a resource?
100%. Advisors, clients love mentoring. Trish would kill me if she heard me say that. I like creating processes. Absolutely. I have a website. I don't know if I think I showed it to you, the unapologetically Jen. Make sure you put the dash, and it's Jen with one N because it's a nickname. So we want one N.com. So unapologetically Jen.com. You can email unapologeticallyjen at primefinancial.com or go to the website, give us a call. And I'm always here to talk. Unless I'm in a meeting.
I know you're on LinkedIn. You're responsive there.
Of course. Yes.
Very cool.
And on Facebook and on Instagram. Although, and on Instagram, it's unapologetically Jen. On Facebook, it's just unapologeticallyjen.com or unapologetically Jen.
You're everywhere.
Everywhere. You can't hide.
Jen, this is fun. Thank you so much for joining me today. Yeah, we get a great cross section of mostly RIAs, independent broker-dealers, or hybrids as well. And I love the energy you bring to the industry, to your practice, to this podcast. And you're different.
Thanks.
That's refreshing.
Unique.
I love it.
So now you get to hear, when we're done, you get to hear.
I know. I'm excited. I'm like, I can't wrap this up fast enough. Got to hear the intro and outro. So for everybody who listened to Jen and I today, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know, of course, that's extremely valuable and the one thing you can't make more of. So thanks for spending it with us. If you'd subscribe, that'd help us out a lot. So thanks for that. And on behalf of myself, Charlie Van Derven, and Jen Staben, Unapologetically Jen, powered by Prime Capital Financial. Thanks for hanging out.